Oh, hello. Can we please talk about UFC, mixed martial arts, just for a minute? No fights to recap from last week, although there was a PFL event and I might do a separate video on that. Some interesting results, to be fair. But I just want to have a quick look. There are three main stories that have come up this week. Justin Gaethje has been very outspoken, saying that he will quit if Conor McGregor gets a title shot, if he beats Michael Chandler. And it's quite funny because he went out and said that, and then Conor tweeted back at him and correctly said, "Did you not get a title shot off the back of it beating Michael Chandler?" Look, the last thing I want to do is agree with Conor McGregor, but he kind of does have a point there, doesn't he? I mean, that did happen. And to be fair, look, I don't think for a second Gaethje would actually quit should Conor get a title shot off the back of a win off of Michael Chandler. He's just emphasising his disgust at that potentially happening if it did happen. Because what he's saying is that, Conor's had way more losses than wins over the last kind of 4 years of his career. And because of that, he doesn't really deserve, with one win, to get back into the title picture. The problem is that Conor McGregor is the biggest pay-per-view star that mixed martial arts has ever seen. So for that reason, he kind of does deserve it. Deserve is a weird word, isn't it? Because look, at the end of the day, it's prize fighting. These fighters want to fight for the biggest prizes, and Conor brings the biggest audiences, brings the biggest pay-per-view numbers, which brings the biggest prizes. So if the shoe was on the other foot, if Justin Gaethje was the champion, he would be perfectly happy with Conor McGregor potentially getting a shot at his belt, because that means that you get way bigger numbers on the pay-per-views, and you get pay-per-view points. So, look, am I saying it's fair that Conor would walk right into a title shot should he get one win? I'm not saying it's fair, no, but it probably happens. And from a business perspective, it's probably the right call. From a business, and the UFC is a business. They're in the business of putting on the biggest fights. Conor McGregor gets one win, damn right you're putting him into a title shot next. You give him whatever the hell he wants, because he brings the numbers, he brings the money, And you could even... It'd be interesting to know which title he'd want to go for, because obviously, it's pick your poison, really. Leon Edwards, people floated his name out there, and it's like, Leon Edwards would be no picnic. I mean, stylistically, that might be the one that he'd want to go for, because it would be a kickboxing match. But Leon Edwards is quite a bit bigger than McGregor, and his kickboxing is very, very slick. So I wouldn't fancy Conor's chances in that one. But then again, I don't know if I'd fancy his chances against Islam Makhachev either. So it's kind of like pick your poison. The more entertaining fight would certainly be the Leon fight, because I think that would be a stand-up war, and it would be really, really fun to watch, actually. So I would love to see him fight Leon Edwards. They could do it in England. Oh God, I'd love to try and get tickets for that. Try be the optimum word, because it wouldn't bloody happen, would it? Anyway, the other big story: Endeavour/WMI have bought the WWE $9.6 billion. Now, most of the articles I've seen have said the WMI merges the UFC with the WWE. That's false. That's incorrect. That is not what is happening. What has happened is the parent company that own the UFC have now also acquired the WWE. And that is it. That is all that has happened. Right? Because people are saying, oh, well, now we'll see Roman Reigns fight John Jones. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. Firstly, if Roman Reigns walked into a USADA testing centre, he would set off the fire alarm. Do you know what I mean? He just literally, he'd melt the cup. There's no any, and I'm not picking on Roman Reigns either. Any of those WWE wrestlers, Brock included probably, they walk into a USADA testing facility, the fire alarms go off. It's not happening. You might see a few more ex-fighters go to the WWE, but you saw that anyway. It doesn't make any difference. Literally the same. It's not going to make any differences on the face of it. You're not going to see a UFC invasion of the WWE. That ain't happening. That is not happening, right? I hate to burst, but it's just not. It's not how it's worked. Look, at the end of the day, the parent company has made another acquisition. The most you're going to see is maybe the WWE advertising the UFC and the UFC advertising the WWE. That might be the most you'd see. I would quite like to see maybe... The most interesting factor of this is that actually the WWE Network has been a very, very big success. The WWE Network is slightly higher priced than the UFC Fight Pass, but it includes all the pay-per-views. And the fact they did that, they moved away from the pay-per-view model a little bit, just to focus on their streaming service. And the streaming service is very big money for the WWE now. I'm wondering if the success of that might convince the UFC into doing a similar thing. When the deal with ESPN is up, maybe really investing heavily into their own streaming platform, the UFC Fight Pass, so that we might start seeing the numbered events. Like UFC Fight Pass, they could put it up to maybe like $20 a month or something. But if it included all the pay-per-views, they would get far more people buying it than buying the pay-per-views that are priced up at like $80 a month or whatever, $80 a pay-per-view. I think that's an interesting aspect of it. Would WMI be able to have any kind of influence to perhaps mirror that in UFC Fight Pass? That's an interesting thing to kind of to think about. I'm interested to see how that pans out. But in terms of cross promotion fights, but this boils down to, look, it's like Quaker Oats owns both Tropicana and Nestle, but you're not going to see wine gum flavoured orange juice anytime soon. Although that sounds pretty good, so maybe they should do that. But that's the equivalent thing. Like, it's just, look, they're still separate companies. They're owned by the same parent company. That's more or less it. And then the final thing I saw in the news is that Hasbulla is a bit of a prick. And I say that because at the end of the day, any kind of animal cruelty, I deplore. I absolutely deplore it. And this is a bit of a darker topic to go down, because normally I like to keep this very, very light. But there's nothing funny about people posting a video, grabbing a cat's ear and twisting it and slapping it and whatever. Like, I don't care what the cat did. If the cat did something wrong, clawed the wrong thing, I don't care. Don't do that, right? Bottom line is, Hasbulla, there's a lot of people that, not being funny, could do that to you. That wouldn't feel good, would it? Do you know what I mean? Like, someone could slap you around, throw you into a corner. It really gets my goat, actually. Really ires me. Especially with cats as well, because cats are my jam, right? So when I see people, anybody, Hasbulla, anybody, abusing cats and then throwing it online, who in your publishing team, thought that was a good idea? Absolute wanker is all I would say to that. If you are abusing animals and then throwing it online to try and get likes, you are a wanker. You're a piece of garbage. You are subhuman scum. And I have no time for it. I don't really know how, I'm not aware of any of his content or anything anyway. I think it's just it's just a weird thing. But yeah, it's a weird thing to post online, and I hate seeing it. It's like, I hope that he gets hit by a car, honestly. I hope he gets hit by a car and he doesn't quite die. He just ends up being a real kind of burden to everyone that he knows and loves, and he knows that they're gradually resenting him in his final days of life. That's what I wish on him and anybody that abuses animals for their own kicks and giggles and entertainment. And I will stand by that. And on that cheery note, it's time to end. So I'd like to say, if you enjoy my content, please hit subscribe and let me know what you think about people who abuse animals in the comments. Keep it relatively clean, because we don't want to trigger the algorithm of hate speech and stuff like that. So yeah, just anyways. Until next time, check out my other video as well. I've got a casuals guide to UFC 287. So check that out. It's the whole card. It's pretty good fun. And I'm going to do a deep dive as well into the main event, co-main event, and probably Yanez versus Font as well, if I get time. So either way, check it all out. Like, subscribe, all that good things. And until next time, keep all those odds long and those bets terrible.